All right, we're recording. Let's talk about P5. No, we're gonna talk about Endgame now.
Oh
Okay.
Um,
god.
All right.
Wait, hold on. Does Willer sound like a robot for anyone else?
No.
That's
It's
me?
just
it's me, Ultron.
yeah. All right, Willer.
Wait, hold on. Am I still a robot to you?
No, not anymore.
Am
You
I
sound-
am I a joke to you? Okay.
A little bit.
Okay, so
Endgame happened.
I'm gonna put a timer on for.
No, I got a timer. I got
Okay.
this. Check your.
I was gonna say for like 10 minutes, or let me look at this. Some messages.
You check the messages on the shit, but and I will give you some time.
I just think that. Anyways, Endgame was great. Uh, I I literally can't talk about this movie without spoiling anything because.
Quick thoughts then. This is my
But,
favorite
yeah.
Avengers movie. It's a 5 out of 5. If you have any interest in the Marvel movies, I recommend you watch this movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's literally the movie of our generation. I feel like the past 10, 11 years has been building up to this moment. That being said, this movie is really enjoyable if you know most, I feel, of the Marvel universe.
It's true.
But compared to Endgame and compared to Infinity War, I couldn't just give someone Endgame to watch it and they'd be like, "Wow."
I think
That being
mandatory watching for this is Infinity War at the very
Yeah.
least.
Oh yeah.
That being said, though, is definitely like going forward for me. It's definitely like watch Infinity War and then watch Endgame right after. It's kind of like watching Lord of the Rings. Like you need to watch them like right after each other, like either same day or the next day. It's just they're just so much better when you watch them from part one to part two.
Sequentially.
Mm-hmm. On another note, like I have an experience where, as someone who has seen a handful of Marvel movies, and they've been like very like, yeah, they're Marvel, you know, that they're all right. And then I went and saw Endgame with them, and now they want to know like everything that's happened that was up to that point. Like the movie is that good.
Yeah, my friend literally for the past month has been scavenging every like friend she knows, rink-dink like streaming service or whatever to watch every single one of these Marvel movies, and she did it. Like literally last night, she watched Captain Marvel, and it's like, all right, I'm going tonight.
Oh god.
Yeah. So it's just kind of a testament to show that after 10 years that people were willing to make the time to catch up for this event. And shit, there's 22 Marvel movies. That's right? 22 Marvel movies?
Yep.
Yeah, so
This might be
averaging about-
the 22nd or the 23rd.
I highly enjoyed Iron Man 22.
for that's about on average 2 hours for each movie. So that's about 44 hours of movies you have to watch. That's literally 2 days straight worth of movies. 2 days of your life devoted to Marvel movies.
Let me say something about the MCU as a whole now that we've gotten to the main event.
Yeah.
The MCU they're not the most incredible movies. None of them will crack my favorite ever list. But as an entire entity, this is like unheard of. To make so many movies, and they're all like at least threes and ups, 2.5s and ups. Like they're all pretty good. Some of them are fantastic.
Those 2.5s, most of them are just because we've watched movies that have been better in this series.
Yeah. They're
And,
still
like,
visually good, you know. They
They're
still
so
got a lot of
good, they're
production.
so fun. Like my mother saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. She's like, I love that movie. It was so
Yeah.
fun. Like that just shows that like they
We're jaded.
yeah. And people get upset, especially nerds, about things being mainstream. But like the more mainstream your thing gets, or the more that people realize how to make your thing a little bit more mainstream, so people can enjoy it with you, it's for the better. I feel, to a certain extent. Like we don't want to, just overgeneralize everything. But the fact that like you can take the concept of Ant-Man, which is crazy, like. Like just the idea of like,
Quantum
his powers
realm.
is he can shrink. And my mother, who has a difficulty picking out a movie, and she's like, I love that movie. It was so enjoyable. Like that's a testament on its own.
Yeah, like none of them are like they're because of the formula. A lot of them are like formulaic, and they got their same story beats, and they're very popcorn, cater to the audience. But when you look at it as a whole, it really creates something incredible. 22 movies that forms a whole cohesive series that has some of the best character development in anything, really, because there's so many movies and these characters, like, the characters are what drives them. Like, these are legitimately well-written characters. And especially when you factor in that they've got so many movies to work with. Tony and Cap, Hawkeye, like these Quill, these characters.
Like this movie wouldn't have worked if it was like the 5th in a series. No. Like you just don't have the attachment to it. There's like you like literally when Iron Man came out, I was what 14, 13 years old.
I was a little shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, god damn. Like this is literally a series that we've essentially grown up with. Like it came out in like a time where we were developing our taste for things and like what we really like in things, and this has been like almost background noise isn't like the correct term, but it's something that's always comforting and there.
You know how people grew up with Star Wars? I didn't do that, and I don't particularly care for Star Wars, but I've always had the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know?
Yeah. But it's just once again, like Avengers was a miracle. Like and Endgame is God, I don't even know. Like it's that times 100. Literally.
Yeah. The thing is, Infinity War Part 1, when that movie came out and everyone walked out of the theater on the first day, everyone just kind of knew that they just saw a part of cinema history. And I don't think anyone would argue with you if you called that movie like an instant legend. Mm-hmm. And going into Endgame, I was like, oh man, this is going to be an awesome finale, but there's no way it's going to be as cool as Infinity War Part 1. No and way. I was like, to me at least, I was like, holy shit, this is so much even better.
I was surprised I like this more than Infinity War.
And I watched it the second time, and I was just like, as a nerd and someone who really likes the MCU, I like this movie more than Infinity War. I still think Infinity War is a better kind of like, what's this movie kind of deal. But as someone who has literally seen every single MCU movie, I enjoy it so much more because it pays everything off.
Let's talk about the movie now. Spoiler section starts
now.
Wait,
before that happens, just quick, just give your just like 5 out of 5 ratings of it or whatever you want.
I did 5 out of 5. Watch this movie if you like the MCU.
Easy 5 out of 5. Mandatory viewing for the human race.
Mandatory, yeah, I agree.
5 out of 5. If you're watching the MCU and you don't watch this movie, I don't know why you watch the MCU. Like
honestly, this movie and Infinity War together might get you into the MCU. To be honest, like it did for as Tyler said, it like that. It works like that. It's very powerful.
Yeah. But anyways, let's talk about the fact that Willer and I came into this movie, and we had an idea of what the plot was going to be, and that fucking got thrown out the window 10 minutes in.
Oh, yeah.
That was incredible. They killed Thanos in 15 minutes. I was freaking out. I was like, what is this movie?
I can't believe that wasn't leaked. Like, holy shit.
I know. And, what I can't believe is, I was sitting there next to Willer, and they're like, "Yeah, let's go get Thanos." I'm like, "All right, time to start the movie." And they're just going to space, and Willer's just like, "Wait, we're just going? Oh, okay, let's just go." And I was just like, "This is weird."
I saw that part, and I didn't get to see it with y'all. But I'm like sitting there, and I'm with my girlfriend who hasn't seen like every single Marvel movie, and they kill Thanos in the first 10 minutes, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this movie about?"
Yeah. I didn't watch the trailers. I only watched the first trailer, which was a really good thing. Because the first trailer is the first 15 minutes only.
None of the trailers did anything. They didn't show anything. All the trailers were just...
Good job. I like the first, like we get to the 5-year part, and it was like the first, we get to the 5-year, and everything that was in that first 15 minutes leading up to the 5 years later was the trailers.
Yes.
Yeah. With like one scene exception, which is them in their quantum suits walking. But even then, like, that's...
Walking.
Yeah, striding, whatever.
They were smart because they don't show Thor in that scene. They don't show Hulk. Yeah. They're like, I'm going to show you Captain America and Black Widow.
Oh, man. Bro Hulk.
Professor Hulk.
Let's talk about Professor Hulk. Apparently that's a character in the comics that people were predicting would show up. They just did it. They're just like, hey, he's here now.
But I love... Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler.
Sorry, I was just going to say, this movie is I feel like it's the most teased fan service. I don't feel like any other thing has teased fan service for 11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fan service was good too. This was fan service done right in
Yeah,
almost every
everybody
case.
everything they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love going back to Professor Hulk, but I love what they did, and it really wraps up Bruce Banner. So, like in this movie, I feel like every one of the six Avengers essentially had a wrap up to their overall like character arc. And
Yes.
for Bruce Banner, he finally comes to term with the Hulk, and like he's just like, Hulk lost first, and then I lost, and then we were able to connect in that way. And we were able, and he has some throwaway line about making Gamma shit to get them together, but like the big part is that they came to realize who each other was, and like meld together and be able to live in coherency and like peace, and they didn't have to fight over like they could be one person. They weren't split personality anymore. They were Bruce Banner and the Hulk.
I feel like we got a lot of Bruce Banner, not as much the Hulk though.
Yeah,
Sure.
I thought the mending of their personalities was. I wish he would lose his temper more. Like I feel like he's only Hulk in the body and Bruce Banner in the mind. I wish there was like a little bit of both because
There was-
Hulk
there
becomes
was
a
one
character in
scene-
Thor.
Yeah,
But we see in Ragnarok though that Hulk isn't really angry anymore.
Well,
Like he is because he's still Hulk, but he's like he
can
doesn't.
control
He's
himself.
very chilled now. He just wants to fight and eat his
He's-
watermelons and
very
everything.
primally like driven. Essentially,
the thing with that is also like, I really like that scene where they go to the ship in Thor, and it's one of the one scenes that's not played for laughs, like before and after. It's just like this is the serious scene of the movie, and Hulk sees the recording of Natasha, and he has to like punch himself to keep himself angry because he refuses to go back to Banner, which is why now that I think about it, I'm kind of bummed that we didn't at least get a scene of them reconciling and like going through that mental issue, which is my favorite part of the Hulk, which is generally not one of my favorite characters, but that aspect of him I think is fascinating.
I think like if this was like a comic book like page, like you were reading this as a comic, there had definitely been a part where like after huge spoilers, Natasha dies.
We're jumping there, huh?
Yeah, already thrown in that thing.
Yeah, that's why I was just shut that out. Natasha dies. There's that scene where like Hulk's like looking over the water and he throws the bench, and that's his one act of rage. Like I feel like there's definitely some sort of like thought process and conflict going within him, and if we were in a comic books, we definitely would have seen that scene between him and Hulk having this discussion about what to do and like what does this mean and how they felt. And we don't have time for that. The movie's 3 hours. Like,
And we don't have time for that.
We also gotta structure this discussion. So here's what I'm thinking. I took notes before this podcast started so I could get all my points across, and that'll speed up most of my talking.
Yeah, let's do that.
So how about I just go over them, and then you guys can go over your stuff, and then we'll jump in and out as needed. I got some pluses and minuses here. It's a very emotional movie. I've almost never felt so many emotions in the theater, and I think that's why it's a 5 right now instead of a 4.5 because I also have a lot of issues with it. But the sheer emotion it makes you feel is unlike almost anything.
Oh, Willer and Joe and I all saw it together, and I was crying. I was crying heftily for the last like 20 minutes.
Bradley was straight up like
You did.
bawling for the last 20
I
minutes.
could hear Bradley crying, and it's just like it's like it was like it was pretty deep, and like I could really tell Bradley was like really feeling it. Like I was
God,
too,
feeling it.
but
And
like man,
it was both sad cries and happy cries.
Yeah, it was very cathartic.
Yes.
yeah.
I cried like a little bitch as well. I did. I was a mess.
On the note of emotions, there were some moments that the theater just went fucking nuts, like cheering, like
We'll talk about the hype emotions in a bit. Let's talk about just a bit of the sadness. I'm not a crier at movies, even though I'm very invested emotionally in movies. I guess I just don't. I've cried like once, and it was at a manga called Gash Bell, and that's about it. But I almost broke at the scenes where when Ant-Man saw his daughter grown up. I actually
God, that's
Ant-Man and the Wasp made me even more invested in their relationship. So that scene kind of fucked me up a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh, she's grown up. Even I was taken aback. It didn't occur to me. And another thing was, of course, big spoiler alert: Tony's funeral. Jesus, man, that was some sad stuff. When they pan over to, it's Happy talking to Tony's daughter. That was really painful.
That killed me. Not gonna lie, I felt that too personally a little bit.
Yeah, big sads.
I was just like during the funeral, it was just like flashing through my mind all of his iconic scenes. Like in this universe, like what a fucking legend he is.
He's so cool.
Oh man.
That I think that's okay. So like Tony, like Iron Man is what started it all. Like that was the catalyst.
He's the father.
And seeing, like, I love the full circle, even though it involved sacrificing one of my favorite characters, but it was like it involved everyone to beat Thanos, but at the very end, it was just a human in a suit of armor. He was the only one truly prepared for Thanos at the end.
Yeah.
With the gem stealing.
Mm-hmm.
That was what made him stand above every single other hero. Was
and on the note of
his
Tyler,
foresight.
On the note of Tyler bringing up his sacrifice, and since we're talking about his death in general, a lot of people have brought up the fact that, you know, one of the most memorable lines from the first Avengers, when Cap and Iron Man are kind of having their first ever spat, is when Cap is like, "You're never going to be the guy to make the sacrifice play." In the first Avengers movie, he does. He saves everyone by taking the missile into space, but I think that is even more potent in this movie where
he actually dies.
He saves everyone with the sacrifice play. And it's a big sacrifice play.
Okay. Next point I got. Fantastic fan service. Man, going back in time to all the movies, really cool idea. I was really excited. I was on board for that.
Oh, yeah. As soon as Willer realized we were going back to like all the old movies and MCU, like we were like, oh my god!
I was like hopping in my seat.
Well, yeah. So like I mentioned before, like in Ant-Man and Wasp, Hope Van Dyne mentions his time vortexes. I'm like, oh, time travel has to deal in some way. And I thought it was either they were going to go back to like the beginning and get the Infinity Stones or change them in some way, or, you know, go back to Infinity War and do some stuff there. I didn't expect them to go back to Avengers or Thor: Dark World.
Fucking
of all
Thor:
movies,
Dark World.
But it makes sense because it's literally the only movie the Reality Stone shows up in.
And Guardians, yeah.
But
the idea that they have to sit there and be like, okay, we have a limited amount of Pym particles and they can only take one person except for when they take a whole fleet, but we'll talk about that later. We only have like a couple Pym particles. We have to find out the optimal places to go to. I really like how they have to sit through there and look at they pulled out their DVD case of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they're like, okay, hold on. Which movies do we jump to?
Yeah. And the Avenger ones is the going back to Avengers, the first one's the best one because it kind of really does show that there was some sort of thought put into like what was going on and like that they're aware of the connections here. Mm-hmm. Because they could have just gone to like six individual movies. Mm-hmm. But they didn't. Like the fact that three of them are in New York at one spot, and you kind of have this epiphany moment as an audience member as well with them. You're like, oh my god, that's awesome, and you never think about it up until then. And it's just like, you know, full circle. Like this is the last Avengers movie where all the Avengers, the original 6 or whatever, are going to be in it. And we go back to the first one. It's just full circle.
On that note of New York, can we talk about Loki for a second again?
Loki.
So he has a TV series coming out, which is what that was. Yes.
I had no idea.
Interesting. I had no clue.
That's exactly why that happened, where he stole the Space Stone.
Oh, yeah, how cool. I'm excited.
And stealing the stones creates branch timelines, I think that's how it works. We'll talk about.
So the way she talked, Tilda Swinton's character says that so long as the stones get back everything will come back together. That's the point she's trying to make. That's that. So long as we put them back where they are, it doesn't matter what happens. Things will work out fine. That's the point she's driving across.
Okay.
So like, think of it as like there's a stream with a bunch of little streams in it, and they can diverge a little bit, but they all just stay in one stream. Does that make sense?
Sure. We'll talk about time travel in the negative section.
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Timey-wimey, yeah. My favorite characters were Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Captain, and Nebula. I thought they all got so much, and it's cool because they were all barely a part of Infinity War. Even Cap was like barely there, to be honest. So they're like, okay, let's give these guys a chance to shine. Man, Ant-Man and Hawkeye were so good, and Nebula had such a good character arc between her movies.
Ant-Man literally stole the show in this movie, I feel.
He was so useful.
He literally was the catalyst.
Oh, yeah.
Bradley brought up a thing where he's like, after the 5-year time skip, everyone had given up, right?
Oh, yeah. So let me kind of say this in I think the original phrasing I had is that at the beginning of the movie, when it's still like right after Thanos did the snap, everybody kind of has this attitude of like, okay, we got to go get him. We got to try to do something about this. Like everyone still has that spark. Like this is not okay. We have to do something about
Heroic
it.
Spark.
He did. After those 5 years pass, virtually everybody has just resigned. They're like, no, like this is just how it is. You have to get used to it. When Ant-Man comes out of the quantum realm, he hasn't had those 5 years to resign. He has that same attitude they had right after the snap. He's like, no, are you guys fucking serious? Like, no, we have to do something. We're not just going to sit down. And I think it's a nice contrast to see how all these characters had resigned over time. It's a stark contrast to how they were with the initial fallout. But they needed that spark to get them back into it.
Mm-hmm. He was a big hero. I really liked the scene where the building blows up, and I was super scared he died. But he's the one that saves everyone in that scene. Like, all the normal superheroes are dying, and, like, they're drowning and shit. And Hawkeye's running from the dumb dog things. And it's like, Ant-Man is going to save everyone, and he does it. It was so good. And then Hawkeye gets to be the running back for a little bit.
I was because I feel like in some of the older movies, Black Widow and Hawkeye sometimes got the shorter end of the stick compared to the people who are usually the biggest on the posters, like Thor and Iron Man and Cap and stuff.
They weren't the action people. They were the grounded character people every time.
They got to shine so hard, and I loved it.
Speaking of their suicide scene, that was one of the best action scenes of the movie for me because it was so emotionally charged. And the choreography was great, right? Clint's like, I'm gonna do it, and then he gets like swept kicked, and then he shoots the arrow and blows up Natasha, and then he jumps like later, and then she grabs him and hooks him on, and then she dies, which was a big twist. I'm like, Clint's of course gonna die.
You could really see it going either way, and I think I had told you about this. I was really satisfied because I feel like it's really rare in cinema for them to let the girl make the sacrifice play. It's always like a thing like, oh, the man has to be, take charge, be the one to do it. I was like, oh, they're not going to kill her. Like, she's going to fight for it, but obviously they're going to kill him. But no, they let her do it. I think it works so much better.
She has a movie coming out too, which is surprising.
Yeah, I think it works so much better because for the past 5 years, that's all she lived for. Like, she never stopped trying to fix things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I talked about the time skip. I like the tone after the time skip. Let's talk about the hype moments. Avengers Assemble. Tyler, what do you want to talk about?
Fat Thor.
Oh, okay, let's talk about Fat Thor. He's in my negative side because I thought I get why he's that way, and I got some good laughs in the beginning. But I thought that he was too much of a pathetic joke. And I get why he was like that. It was really good that he was like that. But they pushed it a bit too much to where the worst part of the movie is the Thor Dark World portion where Rocket's trying to get through to him and he's being kind of annoying. And the annoyingness goes on for just a tad too long.
Yeah. I was hoping by the end of the movie he would become, the awesome god of thunder again. But he just kind of stayed
fat.
The Fortnite master.
Well,
Well, no, Noob Master 69 is the Fortnite master.
Well, I mean, Master 69 is like the villain of the next big saga of the MCU. We're kind of set up for that.
You guys, what if Thanos was in Fortnite in the movie? That would have been kind of fucked. They put the World Destroyer in Fortnite.
It's just I agree with you. It was funny at first, and I was like, okay, is he gonna not be fat? You know, like is that ever gonna?
I don't necessarily mind that he stayed fat. It's kind of fun to have a fat character also in the Heroes.
I can cosplay as him now.
Oh, Joe.
He never became like really serious. Like he didn't have to get buff again, but even in the fight against
he got serious at the end.
Dual wield.
I felt like
that was cool. All right, hype moments.
Wait, no, I didn't talk about Fat Thor.
Okay, talk about Fat Thor.
Because I liked Fat Thor, and it kind of I agree with you that Dark World went on a little bit too long on what was going on there. But at the same time, I really do like what it meant for his character and like and closing out Thor's character arc of just being like, you know, the idea of like he's supposed to be king of Asgard, he's supposed to be this champion, and then like he kind of goes through this process of like, you know, he likes being a goofball and he likes kind of being offbeat and this weird character not having a whole lot of responsibilities, but he feels like he has to do that. And like there's that scene at the beginning of the movie when they kill Thanos and they're like, "What'd you do?" And he cuts off Thanos' head. And he's like, "What'd you do?" That For's like, "I went for the head," and he just walks away. He has nothing else to say. He doesn't even like leave with everybody. He just walks away.
Defeated. Like, it's like he realizes Thanos made it so they can't reverse it, and now all he has is this pity, anger, and revenge that he takes off, and he's really cold about it, and he just flies away.
And like, yeah, and it's really good. That's a very human moment for this character, which is great, because it's like the mom says like, you know, you failed, you're a failure, you're absolutely right. That just makes you like everyone else. Like it's okay, you can get it, but you just gotta get over it. You gotta just keep going forward, and you just have to roll with the punches and keep going. And like, you know, the best moment is when he like sticks his hand out and he gets his hammer again.
Yes, and he realizes he's still.
That part actually made me I was like, wait, didn't he just ruin something for that?
Yes.
Like,
no, because at the very end, Captain America goes back with the hammer, and so he drops it off with him.
He did. Like I noticed that part, and I was like, wait, why did he take the hammer with him? And then he didn't come back with it. I was like, okay, that gets wrapped up. Cool.
I have one more thing to say. I don't know. I really like Thor in general, but I think in these last two movies, well, actually in Ragnarok and this one, he was a little too bumbling. And I thought in Infinity War they did a lot really good stuff with his character.
Thor in Infinity War is my favorite part of that whole movie. It's like a myth you're watching unfold. It's so dope.
Best character in Infinity War is Thor.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay. Next up we got the hype moments. Avengers Assemble. Man, okay. Fucking the best bit of action in the movie.
Hold on, you should reverse that and like go in order, because I feel like.
Well, that's the first like action hype moment for me.
The first thing that happens that's action hype moment is when he picks up the goddamn hammer. Are you shitting me right now, Willer?
Sorry. Okay, sorry. I was about to get to that. I was about to say that my favorite action point of the movie is Captain America with the hammer and shield combo 1v1 against Thanos. I was making the loudest noises. I was jumping in my seat.
Yeah,
that was hype at its maximum.
I feel like Willer and I were in similar situations, because I saw him pick up the hammer and I started jumping. I was like, I almost yelled in my theater. I almost yelled and was a bad patron.
Everybody
did small
in our
yells.
theater was yelling.
Yeah. As soon as the hammer started nudging and like I think Thor was about to die, right? And the hammer starts nudging. I was like, that's not going to Thor. That's going to Cap. I immediately knew, and it actually happened. And he did cool shit with it. Like he just knew how to use it, which is whatever. It's cool. He smashed the ground and a lightning bolt struck down. I was like, oh.
I think you can just kind of say like he's fought with Thor enough to know like he spins down the strap.
He knows the moves.
Yeah, he's probably they've spent enough times together to like know what he does.
The whole,
what about when he tosses the hammer behind, like throws the shield, tosses the hammer behind Thanos, bounces off the shield and knocks him in the back of the head?
So good. The combo of him using a shield and hammer, it was pinnacle. The best action scene in the movie is the 3v1, and it culminates with that 1v1.
I stood up even better with Thor just being like, I knew it.
Yeah, I knew you could do it.
That's a big callback to Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
because
with the
that
party scene.
And Thor like has this like freak out moment, like
In the party scene, it's like everyone's trying to pick up the hammer. Clint gives up pretty quick. He's like, "This is kind of silly. I can't do it." He was the first one to go. Tony is stubborn about it. He tries to use his gauntlet. He tries to borrow Rhodey, and he can't do it.
Which is so like Tony.
Yes, exactly. Hulk tries to do it, and he's like, I can't do it. And then he pretends to Hulk out, and everyone in the party's like, oh, you're being a goofball right now.
You're a big loser.
He's like, Natasha, you should do it. She immediately is like, no. She clearly doesn't think she's worthy enough. So she doesn't even try, right? Cap gets it. He budges it a little. Zoom in on Thor's face. He's like, and then Cap stops trying. You can tell, like, he, like, kind of doesn't really try very hard. Maybe as a partial, like...
Well, like, I feel like, too, there is that really speaks about Cap's character, where, like, everyone else was really, like... they tried other gimmicks to pick up the hammer. Like Banner, like you feel like he's half-heartedly trying to go Hulk mode to pick up the hammer. Like it's kind of a joke, but also like really trying to muster Hulk to do that. Iron Man gets Rhodey in his gauntlet and stuff, but Cap just goes over, tries to pick it up, and just like, oh, okay, whatever, and like sits back down. Like he's very humble about the fact that he can't pick it up.
It was a different way from how Hawkeye did it, because Hawkeye was like, this is clearly I can't, and Cap comes from a place of humbleness, like you said, and almost like he doesn't want to hurt Thor's feelings. And then when Thor sees him sit down, Thor has like a smile of relief. And it all culminated to that moment where he's wielding it, and Thor has a Stormbreaker, and they switch axes for a little bit there.
And he's like,
I want the big one. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of negatives.
Yeah.
I did have...
There's so much more in that scene, because you have the girl power moment, you have the football chase, you have...
Those go into the mixed category for me for reasons...
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I'll get to it now. It's the big fight thing I was mentioning before. It's better in this movie, though, for sure. I thought just because of the sheer hype of Avengers Assemble, but you lose a lot of the characters in the chaos. But you get cool stuff like the kind of forced but also hype girl moment. It was just really cool to see them all line up, and like they just keep showing up one after the other. It's like, holy shit, there's a lot of them now. Yeah, this is cool. Like, the best one is when
like 3.
when Wasp pops up. It's like, oh god. And then Captain Marvel, she goes into the problem category, but but like, I'm trying to think of any other cool things that I can remember. Drax jumping on a dude's back and just stabbing the shit out of it. I vividly remember that.
Ant-Man going giant and then straight up like sucker punching a space whale to the ground.
Good one. Fantastic. See, this is why I prefer this one to Infinity War's big fight.
Yeah. Well, I feel like whenever we like each of those like shots of them doing stuff that looks like a splash screen or a splash page in a comic. Yeah. You would be flipping through like 10 or 15 pages and it would be nothing but these big long panel shots of this fight going on.
I like the football sequence where Clint starts with it, and then T'Challa takes it, and then Spider-Man takes it, and then he gets it to the time machine or whatever, which didn't work.
Well, he passes off to like the Girl Squad and Marvel and
the Marvel kicks ass.
I kind of wish that segment was a little bit longer. Like that was kind of like the start of
That's the problem with the segment. The girls didn't actually do anything. Captain Marvel just kind of charged through.
Yeah, but I like the idea of like we have this thing, we have to get from point A to point B. Like there's some sort of meta objective going on the battlefield, which is a lot more interesting than like let's all punch each other, which was what Infinity War was.
God, you know what? That's 100% right. The Gauntlet kind of made that.
Yeah. And you can say Infinity War is like, well, they were defending the gym. Like, yeah, but that's not like there's not any dynamics going on in that battlefield. It's just Team A is protecting Objective A.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting really loud. Objective A, while Team B is trying to get to Objective A. There's no dynamic going on the battlefield where they have to avoid certain things, or there's just so much cool stuff going on. But yeah, but that whole segment though, and the shot also where like the whole army gets called down, and then there's just Cap, and it's him, and you just see him like standing up against the entirety of Thanos' army.
He's gonna do it. He's gonna go die. Like he's willing, with a broken shield, mind you.
Hype moments for me. Pepper Potts, Miss Iron Man.
Her suit looked incredible.
Her suit is so cool.
So dope.
That was fantastic, and I'm so happy that they showed like that's what I think. She was able to do that because of Iron Man 3.
You brought that up.
It showed she had some fight to her, and then the foreshadowing at the beginning of the movie where it had the blue helmet that is Morgan was playing with.
Yeah.
It showed that even though Tony Stark was not doing anything, he was still being Tony Stark.
Yeah.
He wasn't resting. He was still working on stuff.
Maybe as a hobby, like without a goal in mind, but he was like, I'm gonna build a couple more suits and casually find out time travel in a week.
Yeah, of course. That's the. I feel like that's a downer, but also Peter Parker instant kill mode activate. I feel like that was well deserved. I feel like he needed that. He's like he's like doing his Spider-Man thing, like doing commentary on it the entire time as he's zipping through. He's like, instant kill mode activate, and then just really like stabbing everything around him.
The hug he gives Tony. I think it's midway through the fight. Even Tony sees Peter and he's like, "Come here, you're my son. Like, let me give you a hug." And then, of course, when Tony's dying,
that the ending scene with Peter and Tony dying is a great kind of reflection on like the scene from Infinity War.
Yes,
it's a great callback moment for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's become his second Uncle Ben. Can the kid get a break?
Yeah, basically, like that is his Uncle Ben for the purposes of like this universe. Yeah. Which is better.
He also has Uncle Ben. It just happened off screen. This is the on-screen Uncle Ben.
But for the purposes of us as a viewer going forward, like that's going to be the thing that affects, I feel, Spider-Man most. Is that like this is his role model, the guy that gave him his suit, the guy that basically told him like you can be a superhero and you're good at it. Like that was his icon, and now he literally died in front of him. That's gonna ripple for him for ages. But yeah.
I like how every single one of the relevant characters of Spider-Man's crew died in the snap, so that they could all be the same age.
Yeah.
All right, let me nitpick a little bit. The more you think about the time travel, the worse it gets. So let's not delve too into it. I'm just gonna say, in the end, the time travel ended up being a negative. On a plot level.
Yeah, for me, the way they did time travel, I like it so much more than like, Back to the Future and whatnot, and just because it's much more interesting, and it lets you at the very beginning of the movie just go like, don't worry about all of that, just worry about these facts, and then you kind of go with it because
they're contradicted in the same movie.
But are they though?
Yeah, they are.
Because Hulk literally says like you can't change anything. That's true. The one thing that's the big contradiction is Cap showing up at the end.
Yes.
That's the biggest offender. But everything else is kind of very much Hulk saying like it doesn't matter what you do. It's a different timeline, so it can't change your past. So it won't change anything when we come back here. That's the big takeaway though.
I never really liked time travel in anything. So as soon as I found out that time travel would be a big aspect of it, I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna
turn on my brain,
ignore the parts I don't like, and I'm just gonna focus on the rest of the movie.
It led to, of course, the great fan service with the traveling back in time. Everything was good. The only real problem is the overall rules and what they do with Cap and what it means for the future. But also it leads to such an emotional moment with Cap where it's like, even though I hate it, there's positive sides to it, so it evens out. Cap getting that final dance, even. It's great,
Oh man, it killed me.
It's just to me like, yeah, sure. If you think about it, you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense. But time travel in any time travel movie never makes sense.
There's better instances of it.
I don't think so. Like of what I've seen, especially for like this scale of thing, like it's just it's much more cleaner and leaves a lot less open like it doesn't incriminate any of the previous movies.
There's a series that we enjoy that does time travel better, and because it limits it, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but that's not the same.
I know, but that's an example, and there's the Zero Escape series that kind of spoiled me on time travel from doing it so well. But it still had its positives. I just had to turn my brain off. I like it in JoJo's when they go back in time, because at least it has weird stand rules that like it's not a split timeline. It has this weird end goal that it's gonna reach. Anyways,
yeah.
Move on because people are probably tired of listening to this.
Timeline.
We've been going on pretty long.
Big clutter fight. I talked about action scenes in general. I talked about my favorites, which was really there wasn't much action in the movie. It was very character driven,
which was good. Which was surprising, but also good.
Yeah,
very character and like conversation driven. Like the only kind of action I can think of was them fighting Thanos at the beginning and the end, the Cap v Cap scene, and like that's it.
Captain Marvel I thought was disappointing. It's like, hey, let's remove this character out of the plot and just have her come back in the end because physically she can solve any threat they run into.
Mm-hmm. So I was actually very satisfied about that. And the reason is because whenever I first learned we were introducing Captain Marvel to the movie and they said she would be instrumental in Endgame, I was like, okay. I kind of said it before. I was like, oh, well, she's just going to sweep everything and then our characters aren't going to get their big moments. So when Endgame came around, we were presented with the problem, how do we make it so Captain Marvel isn't just there steamrolling everything the entire movie? And I think they solved that in a very believable way in that the reason she hasn't been around for the entire MCU and the reason she's gone for most of Endgame is that the terrible things and the fallout that's happening on Earth is happening all over the universe. Mm-hmm. And things aren't everywhere in the universe.
Here's the problem, though, with that. That makes sense until you realize that the heroes have the plot that will reverse everything. Why isn't she there in the past? If she was in the past, any single time a confrontation comes up, she could take a stone by force. You know,
well, she wasn't there when they came up with the plan to go into the past.
They couldn't contact her. I know, but like they couldn't contact her and be like, "Hey."
She like literally says, "You will not hear from me for a while."
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So like,
I'm satisfied with how they handled her in this movie. Actually,
I actually sat there and I was with Bradley. I was like, did anybody call? I was like, did anybody call Captain Marvel? Because they all just kind of like started doing time travel.
I mean, I imagine they did. It's just she probably is on the other side of the galaxy, and I bet commuting times is a bit of a bitch.
Fighting Dark Adam Warlock, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird though because it's like, okay, the battle's been going on for 20 minutes, and she must have like, okay, she's on this planet, all the dusted people are back. She's like, oh, they reversed it. Maybe I should check up on Earth. She gets there in 20 minutes, you know. Cool.
And like, even if she was there for the time travel stuff, they didn't do that much fighting in the time travel stuff, right. And they want to keep a low profile. Her wrecking everybody wouldn't be very low profile.
She could have.
The other thing is too, you have to realize is that when they time travel, they come right back to when they left. Like so, like they could have easily like called her and like, hey, we're doing this thing, and then she doesn't have time to get to where she needs to get to, and then they come right back to where they started. It wasn't like it was a whole day later they snapped their fingers. It was literally like 5 minutes after in real time that they do everything else. That's what happens. It's not like, oh, we're just and now we wait a few days and then we do it. It's not that. It's they go as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. So she's so I think it's reasonable to say like it takes a while for her to get back to Earth.
I'm saying she went back to Earth too fast, but
like even then, I think it's fine. Like she has a bunch of stuff that's going on, and you know she might have been. I don't know. Like I feel like it's okay. Yeah.
It's a small negative. It doesn't.
I agree with you though. She is just kind of shoehorned in there at the end and beginning.
She's so strong, man. It's kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous.
But yeah,
The headbutt was pretty funny. It's like, oh my god,
that was good. I also like
Thanos
her
is so out of her
haircut.
league. Oh, dude, her haircut's great.
I watched it with my family for a second time, and like, I hate her haircut. I'm like, are you all kidding me? That's like perfect personification of who she is. It's like, it's rebellious, it's different, it's ugly is not the right term, but it's not normal. It's very like foreign to a more mainstream conservative Texas family. So that perfectly represents who she is.
Okay, my final point of Endgame is I think Thanos was done kind of poorly. Maybe it's because he's earlier in his journey in life. He just comes out a little bit more generic.
It is because of that. Like,
yeah, it is because of that. I don't know. It's after seeing him be so fleshed out, seeing him be generic is a bit sad. And I was saying that the main thing I want to see whenever I see Thanos is stone powers. He didn't use a single one, making
he used one. He used the Power Stone and punched Marvel.
True. And that was about it. I was hoping that he would get the gauntlet, but like the gauntlet would be fucked, so he couldn't channel it properly. So he couldn't do the snap, but he could still channel individual gems. So then we could have gotten like that would have helped the action of the movie for me a lot because he does so much cool stuff in the Titan fight.
But then if he can't do the snap, then what's even the point of getting the gauntlet?
Exactly.
Well, he can take the gems back home and then just build a new gauntlet and do the snap.
But Willard, that's the thing too. If he just needs the gems, it's once again like, all right, I have the space gem, I leave. That's all he needs at that point. It's when we've already had to me Infinity Gauntlet.
Solve that by having Tony steal the space gem and he keeps the other 5. I don't know. There's ways. Yeah. All right. So that's all I got for Endgame.
Yeah. I like the movie, and it took my expectations and shot way above them and hit every mark for me in terms of what I wanted in a wrap up of the Infinity Saga of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I was satisfied, and I watched it. I've seen it a second time. I'm gonna see it a third time this week with my dad. But like I saw it the second time, I was worried like when I see it the second time, I wonder if I'm gonna like it less, and I didn't. I liked it the same.
Nice.
Which I think is
really
good because it means that it's solid. And when I watch those emotional scenes again, I still got the same kind of emotion. So that's like really good. It shows that they made a solid film.